Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on election night and beyond, what to expect. I'm Mercala. I'm with the Clerk and Recorder's Office. I'm going to introduce you to our clerk in just a second. Just a couple of things. There is a Q&A box. Please go ahead and drop your questions into there, and we'll most likely answer most of them at the end of the presentation, because there's a good likelihood that we'll cover the answers as we go. But go ahead and feel free to drop them whenever they come to mind, and then also please try to include your name with them. And let's see. If you did attend one of our other webinars, I am in the process of getting those videos up, so please bear with me. I hope to get those emails out and those presentations on YouTube by the end of today and get those emails out to you. So with that, I'm going to get Molly on screen and introduce her. Okay, Molly, go.
Yep. Can you hear and see me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us during the lunch hour to talk about what happens after election night. I know many of you are candidates or working on a campaign, so I appreciate that you are all knee-deep in GOTV activities. And, for our office, we have a lot of work to do once election night happens for the next couple of days and weeks. We actually wrap up the election towards the end of November. So we will be going for quite a while. And so we appreciate your interest in what happens after election night and what you can expect from our office in terms of results reporting and outstanding ballots and all of those fun questions. So that's the intention of this presentation. I'd love to introduce, I've got two staff in addition to Mercala on the call. We've got Josh and we've got Diane, both of whom have been working very, very hard to help us implement ranked choice voting for the city of Boulder. We are the first jurisdiction in the state of Colorado to implement ranked choice voting on a modern voting system. So it has been a significant amount of work and effort, and we're very proud to be the first jurisdiction to conduct RCV in Colorado. So if you have a detailed question or I might kick it to them, but otherwise we will go ahead and get started and we'll go from there. And as Mercala said, if you have a question, just drop it in the chat. And I'm going to go off camera. Okay, Mercala, you ready?
Okay, I'm going to move to the next slide.
Perfect. So an overview of this presentation, we will cover kind of end-to-end ballot processing all the way through the risk limiting audit and ballot and election certification. Most notably, we'll talk about election night reporting, which you might hear us call it ENR, what happens on the 8th and the 9th day after election day, outstanding ballots that may or may not be counted on 9th day, different recount scenarios, the risk limiting audit, and watcher information. If you would like to have watchers present throughout different parts of the ballot processing or vote center activities, we welcome that and want to make sure you have the information you need for that. So with that being said, we'll go to the next slide. So at a very high level, we in Colorado are fortunate that mail ballot scanning can start 15 days before an election. We do not generate any reports into results until late on election day, but we will begin our scanning activities on Monday. At the very jump, ballot envelopes are sorted into categories from the start of processing. So once ballots are received back to our office from vote centers or ballot drop boxes or the USPS, we start categorizing them right away. There are accepted ballot envelopes, and then there are rejected ballot envelopes. Within the rejected ballot envelopes, there are a couple of categories. There are rejected ballot envelopes that voters can take action to cure, which we will talk about in just a moment. And then there are rejected ballot envelopes that unfortunately cannot be cured. A voter cannot take any action to cure those ballots, rectify the problem. And so unfortunately, those votes and those envelopes will not be moved forward for counting. But first, let's start with accepted ballot envelopes. So these are envelopes where the signature is verified. What that means is that the signature that is on the ballot envelope matches the signature on the voter registration record. And I apologize, we're gonna go to the next slide. Yep, there we go. Yes, and those signatures are verified by bipartisan teams of election judges who are reviewing that signature on the envelope and comparing it to the voter registration record and other signatures that we have on file for that voter. Other accepted envelopes include envelopes that have only one voted ballot in the envelope. The ballot is for this election. We have received ballots for previous elections, and that's unfortunate, but the ballot does need to be for this election. Once the envelope is accepted, the voter is assigned vote credit in the Secretary of State's database, and the envelope is opened, the ballot is removed, and it's separated from the voter's envelope. From there, the ballot is flattened and visually inspected for anything that could impact the scanning process. And if there is something that could impact the scanning process, we'll have judges duplicate that ballot, and that's the ballot that will be run through the scanning equipment. The ballots are scanned, votes are captured in the voting system, and we start generating reports on election day. And we do invite everyone to please join us for a ballot processing tour where you can actually see this work in action. We'll be doing tours in the weekend leading up to election day. So please come join us so you can actually see it in action. The second category of ballots are rejected ballot envelopes. And again, within that, there are two categories of ballots. There's ballots that have the opportunity where the voter has the opportunity to take some sort of action to cure their ballot so their ballot can be moved forward for processing. And so in this scenario, voters have until the end of the 8th day after Election Day to respond. What we'll do is we'll send a letter to the voter and let them know, hey, there was some sort of issue with your ballot envelope. Please respond with the correct action in order to have your vote or your ballot envelope move forward for processing. So the reasons that a voter might have a reason to cure their ballot is if they did not include a signature on their ballot envelope, or if the bipartisan teams of election judges were not able to make a match on that ballot envelope to the previous signatures that we have on file for that voter. If a voter was required to supply an ID in with their ballot, they do need to respond to that letter and provide some sort of ID. They can provide that to they can just drop into a vote center to our office to show that ID, or they can respond back to that letter with the ID, whichever they prefer. And so what happens with these envelopes? So if you were to come to our ballot processing center, you would see that we have 2 floors to our processing center. The first floor is where the ballot is in its envelope, and the second floor is where the ballot is extracted. And so any ballot envelope that needs to be cured will stay on the first floor until that voter communicates with us and takes that action to have their vote or their envelope move forward. And as mentioned, there are unfortunately scenarios in which ballot envelopes cannot be ever moved forward for processing, and that is if a ballot envelope has more than one voted ballot in it, if it's empty, or if it's the wrong election ballot. There's just unfortunately nothing that the voter can do at that point. Election night reporting. So we know that this is where most of you are probably really interested. As you likely know, starting on election day, late in the day, there will be a link added to our website, bouldercountyvotes.gov, and that's where the results will begin to be posted. For this election, please know that results will begin posting after 7 p.m. I know many people are used to seeing results at 7 p.m. Ranked choice voting requires some additional steps to post results, and so therefore the results will not be available at 7 p.m. They will be available closer to 7:15-ish. And so we appreciate everyone really having that ingrained in your brain, because we know that there's a lot of anxiousness for that 7 p.m. posting. I totally understand that. But because of RCV, there's going to be some additional steps that we need to take in order to post those results. So it'll be closer to 7:15-ish. So that first 7:15-ish posting is going to reflect everything that's been tabulated through Monday. After that, the postings will have ballots that we receive on Tuesday and in-person ballots. Traditionally in Boulder County, we do receive a very heavy volume of ballots on election day, and a lot of those ballots come in very late in the day. And so therefore, we will absolutely be processing for a couple of days after election day. But that first posting will have everything through Monday. And then we'll keep going. Okay, so election night reporting for ranked choice voting. And this, we will be offering a couple of different formats for you all to see the results of the ranked choice voting contest. We're going to have a link on our website that will take you to a place that has kind of a stronger graphical representation of how the rankings move through the various rounds. But this, at the very top right, you will see a PDF, and this PDF comes from our voting system. And so just to walk through it a little bit, you can see in this example that you can see how no candidate in that percentage column right there received over 50% of the rankings. And so what that means is that the candidate with the lowest rankings, which in this example was candidate C, was eliminated. The people who voted for candidate C now will have their second choice move forward to candidate A or candidate B. And their second choice is represented in that transfer column, the transfer elimination column. And you can see that those votes those rankings for candidate A put candidate A over 50%. And so that particular candidate won that particular round. But what we will really want to emphasize is that this is a moment in time. And so for everyone, it's really important to recognize that as with every other contest, as we add more ballots to as we upload more ballots, this is going to change. So while it may look like, one candidate was seemingly eliminated in one particular upload, by the time we add more ballots to a second upload later that night or the next day, they could be back in the running. And so this is always going to be a snapshot in time until we're complete with tabulating all ballot. And so again, we are going to have a website page that provides information on how to really interpret these results, and it'll go over some FAQs. And we also do have a visualization tool, as I mentioned, that is really designed to provide a level of transparency and detail into how the rankings move through and how the votes move through various rounds. And so, if you want just that high level overview, you could look at that PDF report. And if you want a more detailed review, you could look at the visualization tool. And that's an example we have from another jurisdiction. Okay. So how does this kind of emphasizes what we just talked about? So what happens is that our voting system will conduct instant runoffs in rounds until a candidate has more than 50% of the votes counted for that round. And so sometimes what that means is that the results that we upload may show only one round, or in this particular election, because there are 4 candidates, it might only show it might show up to 3 rounds. And so again, results can change as more ballots are processed. So again, it might look like a candidate is quote unquote eliminated on that first posting on election night, but they very well could be back in the running by the time we do another upload. And we do expect to be processing for days, and we will have more ballots come in through 8th day after election day. Okay, here's our tentative draft, really not really draft, but here's our tentative schedule for results posting. All of these times are approximate and subject to change, but we do post this schedule on our website. We do anticipate the last posting of the night to be at 1 a.m.-ish on Wednesday morning / Tuesday night, 4:30 on Wednesday the 8th, and then 4:30 on Thursday the 9th. And we'll continue adding, continue on if we need to. Again, please encourage people to vote early so we can get those results done earlier for folks. But sometimes people ask, why don't we do more postings? And the response is that if we were to do more postings, we would essentially need to be halting multiple processing steps in order to pull that results file. And so we're trying to strike that balance of getting folks results and being really efficient so we can get a more complete set earlier on in the week for folks. One of the questions that we get probably more than any other question on election night and the days thereafter is, how many ballots do we have left to count? We do have this explainer on our website, but the tool that you're going to want to look at is our ballot return data. Again, this is the link to get to this page. This updates every day at 7 a.m. And on election day, it updates every 3 hours. And so this is what we've received in-house. And so what that means is that every time these ballots come back, or we receive ballots back from the drop boxes or from the post office or wherever it may be, we are marking those ballots as received. But as we just talked about, there are some ballot envelopes that will never be moved forward for processing. And so this is always going to be kind of a ballpark figure of what you can expect in terms of what's left to count, because not everything is going to be moved forward for processing. A couple things that we want to note about this is this data is reliant on the Secretary of State pushing that data forward. So if they're delayed for whatever reason, or there's another dependency, that could be why there's some changes in the schedule. And again, I mentioned this, but this is going to vary from the actual final what we counted because of all those exceptions that we've already talked about. Okay, so the 8th and 9th day after the election, so military and overseas voters have until 8 days after the election for their mail ballot to arrive. It does need to be in-house by 8th day. We do not use postmarks because they're not always used across the country or across the world. And so we have to have those mail ballots from military and overseas voters in-house by the 8th day. And then again, other voters who have until 8 days after the election are voters who turn their ballot in by 7 p.m. on election day, but they need to resolve some sort of issue. And again, those are those accepted ballots that might be counted. So we hope to have those voters rectify whatever issue they had in order to have their ballot processed. And I know many of you are interested probably in helping your voters cure helping your voters cure their ballot. We do have that information on our website under data and maps, and there's the cure report with associated information in terms of how frequently that's updated and how to get that report. So what that means is that we need all of these ballots in by Wednesday, November 15th. And then we will be doing another final upload on November 16th. So everybody that took action to have their ballot counted, those voters will have their ballot move forward, scanned and uploaded on November 16th. So again, ballots that definitely will be counted, ballots that could potentially be counted. The ultimate number is always going to be somewhere in between as voters take action to have their vote or their ballot envelope cured, and it's always going to be something in between. So I think that answer, or that kind of just illustrates what we were already talking about. Um, so another category of ballots that will definitely be counted. So in Boulder County, we do take steps to ensure that voters' information and anonymity is protected. That's a constitutional obligation that we have. And so here are some of the processes that we have in order to achieve that outcome. So we do hold back 3 ballots per precinct district style to help preserve the anonymity for anyone that needs to cure their ballot or anyone that might be mailing in their ballots from overseas. So we always hold at least 3 ballots back. And so for this election, that means there are going to be 678, up to 678 ballots that are accepted, but we're not going to move them forward for scanning until 9th day. We also have 204 VIPs, is what we call them, voter information protection ballots. And these are ballots that come from voters who live in an area where there's a unique district style within a precinct that might have so few voters in it that we're worried that there's not going to be enough voters to actually protect that anonymity. And so we are going to hold those ballots back. And for this election, it's a small number, it's 204, but those ballots will be, are obviously accepted, but they will be scanned on 9th day. And then manual process ballots. These are ballots that need some additional attention because they have come in, during that final election day or day before, and the envelope might be damaged. And so it needs to be handled in a manual process because it can't go through our equipment, or if it's really dirty or would impact, the scanning process, or poorly marked ballots that need election judges to review voter intent. We actually do have a pretty healthy number of these each election, so it's usually around 500, if not more. So these are all the ballots that will definitely be moved forward, but you won't see them until 9th day after the election. Okay, and then we have potentially counted ballots. So these, again, military and overseas voters have until 8 days after. We typically don't see a whole lot returned after Election Day, but we do wait for those. And then, again, all of the cured ballots. So if a voter has the opportunity to have to take action to move that ballot forward. And then if a ballot was returned to another county clerk's office, so in Colorado, you can return your ballot to any 24-hour ballot drop box. So there is some time where counties need to transfer those ballot envelopes to the correct county. And then in provisional ballots, we're very fortunate. We have very, very few of these in Boulder County and in Colorado. But that ballot or that universe would be extremely small, but those would also be potentially counted as well. Okay, recount. So hopefully we're not in a scenario where we need to do a recount, but if we do, we have done it before and we've done it successfully. We had a couple of recounts in 2022. I know no one wants to be in that scenario, but there are clear procedures on how to conduct a recount. And again, we've done multiple recounts in 2020, last year or the year before. But the process for recount is very similar between plurality contest and ranked choice voting contest, but a recount will occur only after certification. So as mentioned, we will be certifying this election toward the end of the month. So right now that is November 28th. The deadline is November 29th. And so we'll go through how the threshold looks for what triggers a recount automatically. But interested parties may also submit a request for a recount if they would like to pay for it. And so there are some requirements. The request needs to be made with the SOS, our office, within 22 days after the election. So let's go through how to actually um, do this, or what triggers an automatic recount. So in this contest, this is a 2-candidate contest. The difference between candidate A and candidate B is 31 votes. The winning candidate was candidate B at 5,065 votes. And so the difference in that vote total, if it was going to be an automatic recount, would need to be less than or equal to 0.5%. And so that difference in this particular scenario was 0.6%. So it was higher than 0.5%. And so in this particular example, there would not be an automatic recount required. And again, candidates or interested parties may submit that we do one anyway, but the but state law says it has to be less than 0.5%. In this particular contest, we know that there's a multi-winner contest on this year's ballot where the top 5 win. So in this contest, it's a question of who gets that 5th spot in a multi-winner contest. And so that's where this recount formula comes in. And so when we look at a top 5 contest, we have the difference between candidate 5 and candidate 6. So that was 125 votes. The winning candidate vote total of that candidate in the 5th place was 8,986. The difference between the candidates was 1.3%. So again, there's no automatic recount required. So that's how you would calculate if an automatic recount is required. And for a ranked choice voting contest, we would do the same math on the final report from the final round. And so again, that's happens after the math would be based on final certification numbers that the Canvas board would certify at the end of the month. Okay, summary on post-election results. So, we do not tell the press ever whether to call an election. What we're doing is producing what we have tabulated and uploaded at moments in time. And so again, we will be processing for days. We're a mail ballot state. So it takes time to process a mail ballot. Doesn't mean anything is wrong. It means that we're simply going through every single step to ensure that your ballot is processed with integrity and with accuracy. And so, let us know if you have any questions about that posting schedule, but again, it will be taking some time. We do urge voters and everyone to be cautious about calling results for any contest because things are going to change as we upload results. And again, that can be especially true for the ranked choice voting contest. Really, it might look like, if you're a candidate that you're eliminated in that first upload, but by the time we do a second upload, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th upload, you will, could be back in the running. And so please be careful, about calling contests too early. We urge everyone to wait until every vote has been tabulated and uploaded. Again, we are receiving and processing ballots 8 days after Election Day. And we'll be doing that final upload on 9th day. Again, that's Thursday, November 16th. And then after that, results typically do not change. And we'll be doing the certification towards the end of the month on November 28th. After 9th day, we are still going at it. We in Colorado are very proud of our risk limiting audit. What the audit does is it provides a statistical level of confidence that outcomes are correct. And so if you're a candidate, this is, or someone who's working on the election or just someone who's interested, this is really your ticket to having trust that the election outcomes are correct. And so we do consider this a gold standard audit because it uses statistics to ensure that we're auditing enough ballots to verify that those outcomes are correct while not auditing more than is absolutely necessary. So it's a great use of resources in that way. What it does is it compares the physical ballot to the way that the scanner read the ballot at the time of scanning. And so we're very fortunate in Colorado that we vote on paper, and we're using that paper ballot that's what gets scanned through the voting system. And then in this risk limiting audit, we have the report that says this is how the voting system interpreted your ballot at the time of scanning. And then the risk limiting audit is when folks, bipartisan teams of judges are actually looking at the way that report reflects against the physical paper ballot. Okay, RLA process in a nutshell. You can come and see this as a watcher or observer, or as a watcher, or send somebody as a watcher. But during ballot scanning, our scanners will actually date stamp every single ballot with this information. And this is a unique identifier to the ballot. And it's not anything, I mean, once the ballot is separated from its envelope, there's no way to determine whose ballot it was. This is just a way that helps us conduct the RLA. At this point, the votes are captured for that ballot in the voting system, and that cast vote record is recorded. And again, the cast vote record is, this is how the ballot and the voting system interpreted your ballot at the time of scanning. After the election, every single county provides that report to the Secretary of State's office, and that report shows how each ballot's votes were recorded at the time that they were scanned. And then the Secretary's office uses RLA software to randomly select ballots for counties to audit, and that's when that physical comparison happens, and the results of the audit are reported to the Secretary of State's office. So for ranked choice voting, Colorado election rule does say that we must audit each ranked choice voting race. And so right now, the Colorado Secretary of State's office does not have RCV contest auditing functionality. So what that means is that we have worked with other jurisdictions across the country. We've done a lot of research into how audits are conducted for RCV contests, and we are doing an audit for this contest, and we're doing it as closely mirrored to our traditional plurality contest as possible. So you'll still see audit board participation with bipartisan members, a risk limit, and random seat and ballot selection, and comparing physical ballots to the cast vote record. So this contest will be audited. The Secretary's office is required to, in the next couple of years, have functionality that integrates RCV auditing with the existing RLA tool. And then here's the timeline. This is open to the public, and we invite everyone to attend. But at a high level, we are going to be auditing on the 18th, which is Saturday, and then Monday, the 20th. So again, please join us for that. We also will have our canvas board meeting that certifies the election on the 28th. And then after that, we will there's some other statutory requirements, but at a high level, that's our RLA timeline. Okay, watchers. We welcome watchers into the process. We hope that you will send watchers to observe, or if you're not a candidate, but just an interested party, like please sign up to be a watcher, and you can watch anything from ballot processing activities to vote center activities. But it's someone that has been appointed by a candidate or a political party or an issue committee to witness and verify the conduct of an election. We think it's a really beneficial way to see this work in action. If you can't come to a ballot processing tour, or if you can't come to other events we have, please drop in as a watcher. in terms of process, what you'll do is you'll check in at our main election office. And then after that, you'll be directed to the ballot processing center, and you'll be assisted by a watcher host. We do have watcher hosts who help answer questions that watchers have about various parts of our process. And then if you are going to be at a vote center, you would check in with the lead judge. Okay, and then last, just wanted to say thank you for being here. Here's all of our social media handles. Please vote early. Again, helps us process ballots over a longer period of time and get you guys a more complete set of results on election night. And with that being said, I will open it up to any questions that folks have.
Great. So I have a couple questions in here, and please go ahead and continue to put them in. First question is the video for this recording will be available. I just need to get it downloaded and get it uploaded to our YouTube channel. So I will try to send it out by the end of today. And someone thought it started a little later. That the 12:30 one was on Wednesday. Or I believe that was last week. This is our fourth webinar in a week and a half. So, and then someone asked if we wanted a recount on a particular precinct in the mayor's race, how is that handled? I don't believe that you can request a particular precinct to be recounted. Molly, do you have any additional information?
I don't, but we can look into that and follow up. If whoever answered that question, if you wouldn't mind emailing that in, we can follow up with you.
Just respond to the email with the link and we can follow up, but with that. Is the cost of a recount considered a campaign expenditure subject to City of Boulder limits, for example? Ooh, Molly, I'm thinking that, is that a City of Boulder clerk question?
I think that's a question for somebody else, unfortunately. We're not in a position to answer that.
Okay, and Dave, since you submitted that question, again, if you could send that to me and I'll get you introduced to the city clerk who can best answer that question. And then, can a candidate in one town be a poll watcher in another? Molly?
Yes, can a candidate in one town be a poll watcher in another? Oh, yeah,
So if you're on the ballot, can
yeah,
you go watch in? So as a candidate, Molly, in the ballot processing center, they're not allowed. Is that accurate?
I would say that I believe that you can if you're not on the ballot and you watch it in another jurisdiction, but I would want to verify that. So if you want to email that in to us, we can follow up with you as well.
Will you or the SOS be updating VAN with any regularity? If so, when? I believe the VAN is a political party voter database, so that would have to be handled through the party.
Right. Yeah, we make updates directly into SCORE, which is the statewide voter registration database, and we do not work with VAN directly.
If 30,000 voters came in and voted in the mayoral election, how many votes does the winner need for a majority of these 30,000 votes? Molly, do you just want to touch on, well, first of all, 30,000 voters, that would be near universal turnout. But maybe Molly, if you just kind of want to recap how the ranked choice voting works at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's gonna answer the questions of this particular person. So if it doesn't, feel free to email us and we'll follow up, and also would invite staff to chime in if there's additional context. But how it works is that All first choice rankings are counted and reviewed first by our voting system. And then if no candidate has more than 50%, the candidate with the fewest first place votes is eliminated. And those ballots then have their second choice counted. And so that's the process that continues until a candidate has over 50% of the vote. We only use rankings after your first choice if your higher rankings are eliminated. So it really just depends, and I'll kick it to our staff to see if they have anything else to add. And again, if that response did not answer you, please email us and we can follow up over email.
Correct. And like Molly said, it's really about how we're counting the votes. So if a candidate in the first round got 50% of that, which is 15,000 votes plus one, so 15,001 votes, then they would meet the criteria to win in the first round. But that threshold will then change based as as candidates are eliminated. Sometimes a candidate will be eliminated and there won't be a second place choice on that ballot. And so that will change the winning threshold as we progress through the rounds. Hopefully that helps.
And we've got another question here. Will you post information on cured ballots publicly, meaning the JPEG image of the ballot? So the curing process happens before the ballot envelope is opened. So it has to do with the signature, not the ballot. So it's a signature that's getting cured, meaning either there was a like we can't, there's a signature discrepancy or the voter forgot their signature. That is the cure process. And so the voter sends it an affidavit, usually with a copy of their ID is required, and signs an affidavit that was in fact their ballot that was turned in. Then once we have that paperwork, that ballot again unopened, or that ballot envelopes again still unopened, then gets processed. They get the ballot envelopes accepted, they get voter credit, and then that envelope goes to the process of getting opened. So it is the ballot itself is anonymous. And I think that was our last question. Let's see. So again, for clarification, so if 10,000 voters voted in the mayor's election, the winner doesn't need 5,001 to win. Just one sec. Go ahead. Go ahead, Josh.
The answer to that question is it depends. As the rounds progress, the winning threshold can be lowered based on what happens with the ballots as you progress through the rounds. So there could only be 9,500 active votes in round 2 and 9,000 in round 3. And so that would then change what the winning threshold is from round to round. For the first round, the winner absolutely needs 5,001 votes to win.
All right, we'll give folks one other minute or so to drop in any questions. Again, a plug for the tours. We're doing ballot processing tours next Friday, Saturday, and the following Monday. So not this Monday, but a week from Monday, all at 12:30. We picked that time. This off year is a little bit lower turnout. We try to have one the evening before, but we also like to have them at times where we have maximum activity in the building. So 12:30, we should hopefully have some things happening on it. We have our wing is divided into 2 floors, the first floor and the second floor, and the first floor is so we try to maximize it, so you'll see a little bit of activity on each floor. So again, Friday, Saturday, and the following Monday at 12:30. We prefer you RSVP, but right now we haven't had a lot of RSVPs, so there should be space. So if you do forget, just go ahead and show up and we should have space. Again, 12:30 on those days. And I don't see any additional questions. So oh wait, one more here. For those of us running in districts/wards, is there a way for us to get specific number of remaining ballots to be counted? So the short answer is no. We would only really get into those details if something we're very close, because it takes a significant amount of staff effort to find those mini buckets out of, as you see, that, you know, there's going to be somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 usually in those days, county-wide, between when we finish, and we'll tell everyone if it's Wednesday night, Thursday, or Friday when we are done with the initial processing until the 9th day. So we'll make an announcement. I believe we've updated our ENR site, so we'll actually like put that into the top of the election night reporting, but then we'll also let you know on social media as well. We're still on Twitter, we're on Facebook, as well as Instagram. So please follow us there if you haven't already. And if something is incredibly close, we will see what we can do about trying to get those buckets. The cure list is also something that can be looked at. Okay, curing question. Some clarity from either one. I meant when a ballot has marks that cannot be read and 2 judges need to look at, okay, to determine intent, are those ballot images posted? So I think we're talking about,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Molly.
We do not post those images. That being said, if you are interested in becoming a watcher, you can come and see that process in action, but we don't post those on our website. But you can come see that process as a watcher if you would like.
And what time are the tours? 12:30, again, next Friday, Saturday, and the following Monday. Okay, so yeah, again, so the follow-up question: ballots that could not be read by machine, stray marks, oval not complete. Again, those are the way the process works, is those ballots that can't be read by, if like an overvote is always looked at by a team of humans, a bipartisan team of humans. So that ballot image is captured, and you'll see if you do come on a tour, there's a separate area where those people work together. There is an unaffiliated voter operating the computer and a Republican and Democratic judge working together with the Secretary of State's voter guide to determine voter intent. So in your ballot instructions, there's clear instructions, cross out the choice that you did not mean to choose and then fill in the other oval. Sometimes people write little notes, things of that nature. Again, they're following a voter intent guide, and that whole process is done in bipartisan teams. And let's see. Okay, I think we've got all the questions, but again, if you have follow-up ones, if we get off the phone here in a moment and you have follow-up questions, go ahead and just reply back to the RSVP email, and I can get those answered by the right person and get you an answer. And again, we'll try to shoot out this video by the end of today as well, for those that were on the call and also for those that did not make the call. Okay, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.